Namaskaram to each one of you. Thank you, Professor Ratnesh, for giving this opportunity to come to this place and talk to you. Whenever I make some presentations on public programs, I am very keen looking at the next day's newspaper. How do the news is being reported? And that has helped me many times to refine my presentations, because I have seen what as a scientist we focus on is not what the reporters focus on. Because the reporters have more idea what the society requires than a real scientist requires, or what the appreciation the scientists have. And many times I have seen a non-scientific person who interviews. I myself have been into TV interviews many times. I have seen the person who interviews have got a very knack in which he derives what he wants. And most of the time it's not that what we prepare and reach there is what we are able to deliver. So I think there is two different approaches which a communicator or a journalist have and a scientist have. I think blending these two will give an extra opportunity for many of the people. And I have seen two specialized journalists, for example the HALPR, who is a close friend of mine, who is into journalism, who did a journalist course, and then he is specialized in aviation. He is doing a wonderful job where he has no background of science. No background of science, but he is doing a wonderful job. Not a senior scientist with aeronautics background can produce such wonderful articles. I think it's not the background which matters, it's the foreground which matters. And many people talk about what's your background. Somebody was asking me what's your background. We have all got a science background, chemistry background, physics background. But what matters is what the foreground you have. Okay, so this as the introduction. I'll go to the presentation, scientist communication. Okay, next. I was thinking where should I start this? Next. And I found that what the people require. The people require three things. They are curious, that is Vijnanam is essential for people, and they look for something in the newspaper or whatever article is available. One, they need some money to make, and whatever provides money, they will concentrate on that. Some people require fame. There are some examples which show that the fame also makes people to talk or people to look at it. Ultimately, it's happiness which is essential. A scientist feels happy if whatever he does gets into the public. Feel unhappy if it is not reaching to the public. And most of the people who does research are unhappy because it's not reaching to the public. Next. Why scientists have to communicate is one question which I asked. What is newsworthy? That only can be communicated. What is the strategy to be allotted? What is the special thing what he can communicate? Next. To society what he can give, media release, how it is to be prepared, and style versus substance, which is more important. A scientist has more substance, but the style is available with the journalist. Okay, science interview, how should it go, and then giving live, that's more critical. Next, writing, meet journalists, innovative methods of presentation, getting used to what he does, and maybe the presentations become so casual for him. And the rights of science writing. Most of the time when you say that it's that you are saying, people think that's your invention. Most of the time it may not be. I'm only quoting somebody's. And it goes for a lot of misinterpretation, and it goes to allegations. And sometimes you are not understanding the things properly and you present it, and it's a big problem. When scientists talk, somebody was telling me, when scientists talk, people take it into faith. Sometimes scientists also can do mistakes. Okay? And the priority have to be decided. And when science communication is a big problem, because text does not make everything clear. He has to go to tables, graphs, pictures, audio, video, model, animation, simulation, virtual reality. It's a very complicated issue. If you want to make a presentation on casually reading of the paper, it takes only a few days. But to make a PowerPoint presentation, you have to spend at least a few days. So making science to people is not that easy. So you need to make a lot of effort for that. Next. Okay, E makes slightly easier. Electronic media make it easier. So thinking on these, I thought these are all the topics which I have to cover, and maybe I'll go very fast, and these are the topics which we have. We'll go to the session. The traditional ways, India was very good in traditionally communicating science versus Shastram. Somebody said that science is what is truth, but I have a lot of reservations on. I have a PhD in mathematics. If I read my own PhD thesis again, I feel there is something wrong. And if I rewrite the PhD thesis and submit another PhD thesis, I will get another PhD. My earlier PhD is not taken back. So people think that what a scientist does is the truth. It is not the truth most of the time. That's why you see one day somebody says that this is good, coffee is good. Next day somebody says coffee is bad. And both are published. So science is not truth. But India we had Shastram, which is mostly truth. Next. And what is Shastram? Sakshat Anubhavaya Drishto Na Kruto Na Guru Darshidaha Lokanam Upakaraya Etat Sarvam Pratarshitam. What is useful for human being is what is considered as Shastram. And that's what our Nagarjuna says. The well-known chemist in the 13th century who was a science man, a fertilizer man, a chemistry man, a health science man. So what is science is what is useful for human beings. So it's not that PhD which goes into permanent head damage, or goes into narrow and narrow and narrow, and he knows only what he has done in his life and nothing else. Going more deeper and deeper into a subject, knowing more and more about less and less. In mathematics we used to say extend it to infinity. He will go narrow, narrow, and he will become to nothing, and he will know everything about nothing. That is what is PhD. Next. And it could be a hoax. You know that the moon landing is a big hoax. You have got most of the things which says, when we attend international conference on space, we hear that some Germany people and Russian people and French people say that where Americans landed in 1969, we are trying to land. Probably America can land there another 20 years later. So this is what the people, the world is laughing at people. And these are science. We believe that this is science. Because we say that photograph is there, it is proof. Now there are people who say that the photograph was a big fake, and there are films which are shooted in the same site, and that is better than that. Okay? So darshanam is philosophy. It is not that what you are showing, it's what you feel. Experience is what is science. When you have darshanam, that is philosophy. We also get a doctorate in philosophy only, not doctorate in science. It is mathematics is not what we are getting awarded. It is the philosophy, how do you present it, which matters. So we have to be philosophically, we have to be convincingly communicate things. Then only the PhD is awarded. Therefore, darshanam is much more important. Effectiveness and effective communication, both E and A, are much more important. Okay, next. That's what it says, the Atnana Timirandasya. The knowledge is what make you the eye opener. And the Guru is the person who does not tell the things, but he show you what is it and you experience yourself. That's more important. Okay. And Bharatiya Shastram, we have mixed knowledge with rituals. We have mixed knowledge with literature. We have mixed knowledge with everyday activity. The few examples I have. Next. It says, okay, I'm not taking all this. If you just look at the morning prayer which people do, Desha Deshandaram Yadvat Dipa Dipandaram Cheva Yo Ambare Gandumarhasi Savimana Iti Prota. Definition of Vimana. Can any of the people who are working in the aeroplane department or any aviation department can define Vimana better than this? The concept of science is being embedded inside the rituals, inside the sloka, which Yojananam Sahasre Dveshade Dveja Yojane Ekena Nimishardhena Kramamana Namastude. When you do Surya Namaskara, the morning chanting, it is nothing but the velocity of light. Yojananam Sahasre Dveshade Dveja Yojane Ekena Nimishardhena Kramamana Namastude. 2202 multiplied by 12.11 divided by Ekena Nimishardhena. The Indian Science Academy says it's 0.15 second. You divide, you will get velocity of light. Every ritual which we do had got science inside that. So we had a science communication through the rituals. Every people who does puja inside the temple knows mathematics perfectly better. All the arithmetic progression, geometric progression was only chantings. And all the chantings we hear, God knows, nobody knows the meaning of it, wonderful. But if you look at it, the mathematics have inside that. Some gods like only arithmetic progression, somebody else likes geometric progression. So it depends on the god, the chanting is very, that's all the difference, okay? Ekachame, ekachame, trishyashchame, trishyashchame, panjajame, panjajame, saptajame, saptajame, navajame, it is nothing but arithmetic progression. Ekamcha, ekamcha, dashamcha, dashamcha, shatamcha, 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 sahasramcha, sahasramcha, ayutamcha, ayutamcha, niyudamcha, prayutamcha, prayutamcha, vayutamcha, up to 10 power 57 I can go if I have time. Okay, next. And these were available, this science was available, and this was communicated every day to God. Not to God, to the public who comes there, and it was science communication which was practiced every part of the world. In India, it was generated. And these are even the Rigvedic type, we don't know the time. Okay, so that old communication methods we have. And mathematics people today have become very bad. I am a mathematics person, communication is very bad. Instead of upstairs, we will say send a numerator. Next. Okay, so very bad communicators. That's why science people are very bad communicators. Okay, next. And many people know how to communicate, only people understand it or not. That's only the difference. We have seen people communicating, but people don't understand. That's only the difference. Next. And this picture is a satellite image. I am from satellite imagery. Image processing is my job. And this picture, when you say you don't understand anything because it's all false color coded images. It's not the real color, it's the false color coded image. It's only scientists who can interpret this. We make images like this only. We don't give in the natural color. Okay? Because people should not understand. That's the problem. I was happy that Pishardi was being quoted here when there was a presentation to the leaders of India to start remote sensing. The Pishardi is the father of remote sensing in India. He made a wonderful presentation on the overhead projector. In the half of the presentation, the bulb fused. That's the technology we had on these days. Then Prime Minister said, yeah, I understood. Then Pishardi said, even I did not understand. How did you understand so well? So he had a backup presentation. He said, no, the overhead projector, I brought one more. Because we know how technology works in this world. That's why PowerPoint presentation does not work most of the time. So what he did is he put the other overhead projector and projected again and forced her to listen to this. And the program was sanctioned like that. So he says, most of the time leaders don't understand, but they sanction money. That's wonderful. That's why science is progressing here. And scientists are good in communicating. We don't communicate up. That does not happen, but still sanction will come. And we are not good in communicating to each other because everybody is specialized. I was training head in my office many of the times, and when we don't even have 3 people to listen to our lectures, even the greatest person comes for lecture, and we have only very few audience. Only the organizer and the director will be there to welcome speech and the thank you. 3 people have to be there. That's what I am seeing here also. The people who have not given responsibility will not be here. The journalist, we talk about science communication and the interest which people have in this institute, we are seeing. So this is the situation everywhere. It's very bad. People don't have interest in these things. And he was telling there was a crowd puller because the celebrities were attending the lectures and many people come. I think for next time when you attend give good lectures, you should have few celebrities sitting in the front row so that many people will at least come to see them. Okay, not the scientist. Next, the good communication does not happen between. But most of the time what happens is when you talk about science communication, understand most of the people are not talking about science communication above or peer, they are talking about communication below. The scientists have to take this communication onto the common public. That we could call it, probably not the science communication, the science journalism is what people mean as science communication. So that's what I am also trying to focus. Next. Okay, there is a wide difference between the public and the scientist. That's true. Generally it is true because we spend 18 years in this or 20 years or 30 years in this and they don't spend even half day in that. So there is a wide difference. So that's the focus which we have. Next. So Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad, I am happy there was somebody mentioning that, and I was a volunteer in Kerala during my childhood and we were asked to ask questions. Anything you see, ask questions. Why, where, how, when, what. These are the questions we ask and that's what makes people curious. And human beings are only animal where you have got the questioning capability. The others will just listen. No dogs will listen to lectures, no dogs will give lectures. That's the only difference between human being and dog. And at least we listen to something and ask questions, and that curiosity is not that we are useless. And audience, general audience are difficult in science. You cannot have a different audience will be there and you cannot have the same subject being told. When I talk the same thing in a scientist group, I will not be telling the same thing, I will tell in entirely different style. So it have to be in different style to different audience. People don't understand this. That's the biggest problem with the scientists. They take it for granted that all the people who are sitting in front of me have equal knowledge as I am. Therefore they become a very big vacuum and nothing goes inside the brain. Next. Okay, and media communication, how do you communicate to the media so that the media can communicate better? That's what I'm trying to say and that have been covered quite well. Next. And education, that's a good part, that education part have to be there. What happens is people have no curiosity is knowing anything because now the education, next, education is just depend on getting marks. Somehow you have to get a mark and then somehow you have to get a certificate so that you can get a job. That's why the curiosity have gone. The teachers also are very, very poor. Last year I must have spoke to more than 50,000 teachers and more than 1 lakh students. No exaggeration. I visited more than 100 colleges in Kerala. As a director of academic staff college, I had the advantage of going to different colleges. I've seen most of the students have no curiosity on understanding anything. They want to get mark. All the parents are also like that. Whether you understand it or not, you have to just mug up and then write examination and get a certificate. That's what people are looking for. There the education goes into brain, not go into the heart. Unless the education goes into the heart, you cannot use it as skill. And it just got after the examination. I have done a survey where after the examination the same question paper was given with a nice chocolates to write the answer again. Nothing was coming out because once you write the examination, the disk goes crash. Nothing will be there in the brain. That's what happens. So the public is there. Next. The bright future is only in the basic science. Next. So the basic science is the pillar that we are forgetting. That's a big problem. The economy, somebody has just mentioned that economy relates in science. That is to be there. And journey is more important. It's not that whether you become a scientist, whether you get a doctorate or what you do is important or not. Once you do this course, you have got some experience that can be used for different purposes. So the outcome of the person is the skill which he gains by doing an education. That is to be given importance. Next. The focus is the skill and the experience. Next. Then don't have and what to have. That's exactly to be decided. We have got a medical students where they have got a skill because they have got to work with a medical college. Any of our engineering college work with the industry? None of them do. And they generate lot of projects. I have been guiding most of the engineering students on the projects and MCA students. They make just a report and then submit it. And we certify that these are all bona fide original. If India have produced that much inventions, India would have been somewhere else. And all these bogus projects are being done and no skill is being added to a student at the engineering or science level. Most of the projects which they do are become useless. Whereas the medical college, what happens is he has to prove that he is serving somebody. I think all the technical education, all the science people have to be made to work for the society, then only the science education will become better in this country. Next. Okay. This is what I was giving a presentation on Kirchhoff law, where the electrical engineer learns what's the Kirchhoff law, but you look at the electric post and then try to apply his Kirchhoff law, nothing will work. Next. And education, you have data, information, knowledge, skill, wisdom and experience. Unless it is put into the society's job, it does not become experience. So science have to be experienced. That is not to be, knowledge should not become that. I just ask for an example, when I go to a school, small school, and to the normal 8th class, 9th class student, what is the multiple of 84 to 76? They start multiplying. One side you learn x minus a into x minus b is equal to, or x minus y into x plus y is equal to x square minus y square. They don't understand this can be solved very easily using his equations, because equation he learned somewhere else, but this problem is given somewhere else. The equating does not happen inside your brain. But people learn what is a dog and what is a sun. When they get angry, they know how to equate it together. Okay, next. And this, I was attending a science exhibition in which this was shown. When you see through a microscope, you see Newton's rings. I said, wonderful. How to get rid of this? No, they don't know. The Newton's rings is what they show, because the plate is not kept exactly to the plate, and in between there is a vacuum that creates the Newton's plate. The person who is experimenting or showing was only said Newton's rings is there. If you don't have to have a Newton ring, what is to be done is never told. So people are being taught exactly what is, and they don't even question themselves what is that they are doing. It's essential for the scientist or science student to ask themselves, what is that I am doing? Does it make a sense or not? Okay, next. The digital literacy is going to be covered tomorrow. It's very, very essential for the public, because we are moving into the digital society. It is not the old generations are migrated digital people, but the next generations are born in digital field. And they are much better. Multimedia kids. I used to say multimedia kids. Next. They understand much better than all of us. And discovery learning style is essential. Ask questions. I know my son looks at the computer and works in that, looks at the TV and listen to the music and chat somewhere else with somebody, eat chips and then listen to the mother scolding also. They are really multimedia. We can't do that. Okay. Now prove the discovery learning style is very, very essential. Next. Next. Just skip this. So it's essential for people to move it to the advanced stage. Next. Push it. The global outlook, job dynamics, society demand, economic, that's what is essential. Scientists have to be linked with the media to reach into the public. That's more essential. Next. You can just skip all of them. Next, skip. These are some of the portals where you can look at science, but you can see some interesting portal. Next one. Next. Skip. Yeah, you can see that exammarks.com. People are only looking for how to get more exams, and that have more hits than your math.com. Okay. Next, math guru and all have no value, and the young students are good. They are really multimedia goods. Activity, aspiration, ambition, attitude. That's what is to be inculcated in students so that they will become wonderful of tomorrow. The science also will progress according to the next generation. Next. Discovery style of teaching, communication matters. Next. Once the bell rang, I have to pass through that. Okay, communication, rewards and incentives are very, very essential. And how to train the scientists, that's what I'm talking at. These slides are for that. Next, mix of science and media is essential. segmentation of audience is very, very essential. You can see how Swadesh, the Shah Rukh Khan's movie, was successful as a scientist. He comes to the village and then helps the people, and the Tare Zameen Par. I just intentionally put it in the reverse because that's what the cinema says. Okay, next. And our science congress as thin as this, many people are not attending, that's what happens, and most of the time discussions does not happen. Next. And what is essentially required is you should have a mix of all these together, where library, science, exhibitions, discussions, presentations, all that to go together. Science research should take it to the public and they should start debating on that. That's essential. Next. Ask questions. It becomes share knowledge experience. That's essential. And maybe one of the best place where it has to be shared is the hot mirchi. Next. The radio reaches the masses. It has to be used thoroughly. Next. And the training for the scientist to present in the at least some radio channels so that they will make big presentations. Anybody who is trained for this, I think few scientists get trained, they will become much better presentations. And people are saying whether you have to have only journalists who present or a scientist to present. I have a feeling a journalist or science communicator can present the product, but if you talk about the process, it's the scientist who can present it. So both have to be seen different. When you want a specialized presentation, it's the process which is to be presented, and you have to ask the scientist. And I had many sessions where in Kerala I used to have sessions where Ask the Scientist used to be the session where anybody can ask questions to me and I will answer that. And many times that has been a successful program. Next, these are all some of the barriers which the science communicator have. I'll just conclude it by just one slide at the end. Next, these are the barriers. After all the presentation we said don't quote me, don't take my paper, don't put it anywhere, and that's what the press conference is for. Okay, so similarly I have got one more. Don't quote me, don't make my presentations public.